Well, 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 audience. Here we are. It's going to be a short episode. I'm not sure I'm going to make it to 9 p.m. It's been a very hot, very long day. You
Hey.
know, normally when I do these intro things, no one ever talks about their week. But let me tell you about my week by complaining. The one thing I know my audience loves to hear me do, besides talk politics, is complain. So my mom was like, we should get all the family properties all in one insurance thing. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a huge hassle, but let's do it. Maybe I'll save some money. Well, flash forward, I didn't save any money yet. Flash back to where we were at. We went to insurance company to see if we could get everything packaged all together all at once. And they were like, yeah, I think we can do that. But I noticed that your current insurance doesn't have the 10% safe driver discount for the state of Delaware for having completed a driver safety course. And so my mom was like, I'm very interested in that. And I was like, 10% is pretty good. So we're looking at doing, one of these courses. And it turns out there isn't an in-person one before we leave on vacation. So I'm like, well, look, AARP, which we both belong to because I'm retired and you're 78 and you're also retired. Obviously, we can just do an online course. And then my mom is like, complain. She hates online courses. That's because anytime she's ever touched anything electronic ever, she's broken it. And you might think I'm joking, but I'm not. She breaks electronic things all the time. The cast members of Worlds Without Number, Well of Ambition can attest to the fact that I was late arriving to this week's episode because I had to fix her new iPad Air, which just arrived from Costco. And then we had to end the episode early because I had to go fix her iPad Air, which had just arrived from Costco and I had set up. And she could not figure out how to insert the Wi-Fi password. So, yeah, I had to leave and go do that. So, this course is a freaking nightmare. The course claims that it is exactly 6 hours long. I completed it at what I would consider record speed. I speed ran the hell out of that thing. It is all audio recorded talking, and you cannot move ahead until the person is done talking. It is not 6 hours long. It is 9 hours long. And some of the questions are absolute gotchas, and at least one of the answers is just straight up wrong. At one point they were like, are you at more risk of hitting this car or this car? And I was like, well, they're making a right turn onto a 2-lane road, right? Obviously, the car on the inner lane that they're making the turn into is the one at threat. They were like, no, absolutely wrong. The car moving faster is the threat. And I'm like, you would have to cross 2 lanes of traffic while making a right turn for that to be true. That's just the dumbest fucking answer I've ever heard for this problem. And I don't know that it's legal to merge on a right turn and cross an entire fucking lane in the process. Just stupid answer. Then at one point they asked me a question about points of confliction and how many points of confliction there are at a 4-lane highway intersection types of shit. And I'm like, you have not defined what a point of confliction is at any point during this course, for which my eyes and ears have been glued to the fucking screen. I don't know. I'm just gonna guess randomly. My mom also guessed randomly. We both randomly guessed the same number, and of course we were both wrong. And you might think maybe that question was a prelude to explaining what point of confliction is. It was not. It was never explained in any way, shape, or form what the fuck the answer was supposed to be. Anyway, so I spent hours doing the old school streaming stance where I'm hunched forward, my eyes are locked open and I'm at 3 to 4 hours of a time unmoving. So I'm sure that my blood pressure is about to stroke out or some shit. But yeah, my eyes are fucking burning. Not just because I wasn't blinking, because I was staring at a screen for hours on end, hoping I didn't get another stupid fucking answer from AARP, but also it's like a bazillion degrees here today. So that's me and the insurance thing. And you might think, of course, after all this work, you will be rewarded. I was not rewarded. Even with that 10% discount, the bundled package that they gave us was not less than just doing all of the properties and cars individually tied to each of us, which made me wonder what the fuck is going on. How could they tell me the bundle is going to save money? How could the bundle possibly not save money? Isn't that the point of bundling? Anyway, so I'm really upset about this insurance thing. So I just sent my current insurance agent for my car the 10% safe driver thing, and he was like, yeah, okay, I'll apply it to you. And I'm like, great. At least that made it worthwhile for the next 10 years. Maybe I'll get some recompense. It was only like $30. So it'll immediately pay itself off. But I also had to lock my eyes open for hours on end to get through this fucking mess. What else can I say? I've secretly been planning for weeks for trying a new stream series. It's going to go on AP Gaming. But I think I'm finally positioned to make it happen. I'm finally up on the knowledge to do it, and it will deploy while I am on vacation. So probably like June 2nd or June 3rd. I'll post a message on the AP Gaming Reel YouTube channel that will direct you to the video when I am finished with it. And we'll test float it. We'll give it a shot. We'll see what's going on. See if people enjoy that. There's a bunch of other stuff that'll be pre-programmed to drop while I'm on vacation. Most of it will just be reminders about series that are currently on running. If we could wrap up the current arc of Shadowrun, I don't think it's going to happen. But if we could, I would drop the whole arc while I'm gone. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. We're in too deep and not close to ending our current contract. Lawson has sent me a thing. Okay, so everyone, we can congratulate Lawson. He pulled the French Curran Chan in Uma Musume. Now, let's be very clear. We don't like Curran Chan. Anyone here who is a Daiwa Scarlet fan knows that if you don't achieve second level of like 120,000 fans by the year 3 Valentine's Day, Curran shows up during Valentine's Day of year 3 of the Daiwa Scarlet campaign and embarrasses her and then just skips out like a little piece of shit. So we don't like Curran Chan around here. Everyone hates her. All my homies hate her, but we can all congratulate Lawson on an excellent pull because getting the thing that you want is never bad, even if it's Curran Chan, who again, we all hate. Complicated? I think so. Lawson, anything to say about that situation?
Well, I just figured I'd pull for new banner dropped, wedding scenario event stuff going on. So, and I pulled her pretty quickly, so I got to save all my carrots for when I actually need to spend it on support cards.
The only wedding scenario I'm pulling for is Gentle Donna, motherfucker. And until that happens, get out of here. I don't play Uma Musume anymore. What else can I rage about? Let's see. World of Warcraft, I managed to lock in that 3,000 Mythic Plus rating. Maybe I'll try sticking a toe into rating, but I don't think so because the situation in Mythic Plus is that there aren't enough tanks. Tanks only make up 11 to 13% of the community, but are required to be at 20%. So it's very easy to get into something as a tank right now. But in raiding, it's the complete opposite because you only need 2 tanks in a raid situation, but you need 20 players. So there are more tanks than needed in a raid. And so even though there's like some mythic trinkets that I would like, some myth level trinkets and weapons and recipe drops, I don't know that I want to take the time to get into it. I'm mythic plussed out.
I'd recommend maybe you try the Dream Rift raid, because that's literally just the single boss raid that doesn't
Yeah,
have any pulls.
but it's still I'm still only 1 tank. I'm just one man out of 20 people. I'm out of touch. You're out of time. Sorry. That Holland and Oates? Daryl and Oates? I feel like that's true.
Might just be Paul and Oates.
Yeah, something. It's the guys who did the Psych alternative theme song. Yeah, I mean, getting 3,000 was not fucking easy working my way up there. And, like every healer, because I'm a tank, no healer ever said shit to me. Like, no healer was ever mean to me. We were like, if we said anything, the healer and I were tight. We absolutely knew what the fuck was going on. And I'd say maybe like only one person in a quarter of my groups. So I pretty low circumstance of it, but they're a non-zero amount of people who are just huge dicks. And it was usually directed towards me. And now that I've done a couple on my healer, the huge dicks also basically just always target the tank and just shit talk that person. And it's like, it's crazy the level of responsibility people put on the tank to like know the route to pull, because there's the new way of doing dungeons. You have to do a minimum amount of clearing the like mob trash on the way. And mythic keys are like a thing you put into a pedestal at the beginning of the dungeon. And the higher level the key, the shorter the amount of time you have to complete the dungeon, but also the harder the dungeon is. Every key increase increases the amount of health and damage enemies do by like 5%. So, yeah, like the rewards get better and such, but it's freaking nightmarish once you start getting high enough. At low keys, you can basically just ignore doing mechanics. But once you hit like 10 plus, people that still have not learned the mechanics and have just been carried the whole time are just nightmarish. Like, healers don't have an interrupt on spellcasters anymore. They literally remove the interrupt from all healing. So even if a healer wanted to interrupt a guy, they couldn't. And as a tank, sometimes I'm forced to literally roll out of the ball of enemies to go find one caster that's hanging out in a corner, interrupt him so that he loses his ability to cast spells for a few seconds, and then he'll follow me back to the ball of death. That's not something the tank should be doing, aka turning their back on a ball of death. The DPS should be on top of it, but they rarely are. People will die to the dumbest fucking mechanics in fights from dungeons that are 15 years old. I don't know when they introduced Algathar Academy. I guess it has to have been Dragonflight because it's all dragon related, but it's a fucking nightmare. Pit of Sauron's really cool, but somehow people still fail it constantly, and that has to be Wrath of the Lich King because it's literally in Icecrown Citadel, and people still don't understand that you must interrupt the skeleton, the Arcanist Cadaver. If you don't, it just wipes everyone. It literally just kills everyone. It's not that hard to see it coming. You just have to have one DPS walk over and interrupt it. And yet, so often the whole run gets tanked because there are 3 DPS. Not a single one is interrupting, even if you're pinging away at it to get the job done. And then afterwards, they'll just rage that the tank didn't interrupt it. And I'm like, there are other things I had to interrupt, like the fucking lich. The lich that's casting the sort of shadow wave everywhere. Like, do you not understand how to do this dungeon? I don't know, man. I try to be super polite to people during Mythic Plus, and I only lost my cool once. But, like, this is exactly what I wanted to avoid. But because I reached a 3,000 rating, I also reached a plus 12, actually plus 13 for certain dungeons, in all of the current season dungeons, which means my key is now locked at plus 12. It can never go below that. And so I'm retired from World of Warcraft now. I've been going at it pretty hard, and for the last few days since I got that 3,000, I've just kind of been logging in to do the daily craft and then log out. I got full clear on all delves for everything but healer, and I guess maybe I could get that. I could hit all 11s with no lives lost or with lives remaining on my healer. But is it worth it? Like, I don't need more champion or heroic level gear. I'm pretty much heroic out. You know, if I need to get a new alt up to level 90, I could just do it in like 4 hours. Like, but I don't, because I literally have a whole second monk that's a healer. I have a tank monk and I have a healer monk, which is crazy. No, I guess normally a person would just use one monk, but that's only for Final Fantasy 11 and 14 fans, where your character just plays every position rather than making ults. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that when Rad comes back, maybe we'll have enough people to get something started, because I want to get something started, but it doesn't really feel like anybody else wants to get stuff started. Taranaki and I did some Mythic Pluses, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I want to do delves with people, but it is statistically easier to just do the delve yourself. It just materially is true that the more people you add to the delve, the harder it gets. And not just like, oh, it gets a little bit harder. It materially scales so that with more people, it's more difficult, even if the person you added was an absolute super giga genius, 100% fully kitted out dude. The new difficulty level will scale more than the increase of an additional person could account for. So when you start getting up to like a 4-person group with a Valera, it is actually just noticeably more difficult. There are ways to offset that. Bringing a tank instead of a DPS does make a big difference. But on the other hand, why would I want to fight enemies that have like 6.9 million HP when if I was doing it myself, they just have like 600,000, you know? Why would I want to fight something with 10 times as much hit points? I'm going to kill it almost as quick. I'm probably going to kill it a lot faster solo. I don't know. Counterintuitive game design, maybe. I was really hoping we could get some dungeon groups together. Like, even there are dungeons in Midnight, like Den of Nashrak or whatever, that I haven't done because they're not on the Mythic Plus track and we can't get an internal guild group together. But I just, I want to do them. And I'm sure when season 2 rolls out in August, the Mythic Plus dungeons are going to flip, right? Like, all the current Mythic Plus are going to switch over to the other dungeons we haven't been doing. But I'll say this, I definitely feel like I've kind of hyper specialized. Magister's Terrace is easily my best dungeon. I like it a lot. Magister's Terrace is like really smooth to do. It has some pretty tough pulls, especially anything with the spellbound familiars. Because they can, even if you, the tank, pull them, they will randomly teleport to a member of your party and hit them for a giga fuck ton amount of damage. And that random teleport is not immediate. They just choose to do it whenever they feel like it. So you can't plan for who they will target or when they will execute it. which is extremely annoying. And a lot of people find that in like 19 plus keys, it's almost impossible to deal with. So like they'll just one shot a DPS or a healer. So they have to pull different trash packs rather than get anywhere near any of the spellbound familiars or whatever they're called. It's spell something familiar. Magister's Terrace, absolutely excellent, has a bunch of great bosses. Gamelus is like very interesting to me as someone who used to do a lot of dungeons and raids and Rift. Gamelus is like hyper interesting. This guy has a big health pool. He's a giant floating jellyfish, and then every time he loses a third of his hit points, he splits into 3, which means by the end of it, he first third lost, he splits into 3, and then when he gets down to 33%, he splits again and brings 2 more out, so there are now 5 total. But a lot of the monk brewmaster abilities all have like area cleave, and a lot of DPS have area cleave as well. So if you're dragging the boss onto the other copies of it, you're basically like constantly cleaving. And if you can set up a situation where you've got 2, 3, or even 4 of them on top of each other, you're not exactly quadrupling your damage, but you're probably getting like 2 to 3 times more damage. So even though he initially has what appears to be a really big health pool, he actually gets easier as the fight goes on. He's at his hardest at the beginning. Gemellis is super interesting. The last guy, Demetrius, is like a volleyball champ. He has a thing where he puts a marker on the ground and throws an energy ball towards it, and then if you block it by standing there, the marker moves to one of the other quadrants, and so a new player has to just keep it in the air at all times. Very interesting. I thought that was super cool. Yeah, so Magister's Terrace, my favorite and probably easiest dungeon. I'd say Skyreach is also pretty easy. Not my favorite. I would say maybe 3rd or 4th on the list of like 8 dungeons. Skyreach, it's super aged, and a lot of people ignore the mechanic on the final boss. Actually, people ignore a lot of mechanics in Skyreach. I think its age and its deceptive easiness leads people to just not do some of the mechanics. So the second boss is like a giant robot dude standing in the middle of a foundry. And there's like solar lasers that he randomly summons to hit him. If they hit him, I don't think they do any damage to him, but they do end up giving him a repeatedly stacking buff. So you have to get your DPS to stand in the way of the laser for the whole time. And he's firing 3 lasers at all times, and your party should have 3 DPS. This is a no-brainer, but it's a no-brainer, and people have no brains, so yeah, it doesn't always get done. And it really sucks if you're the tank and you also have to block it as well, because then the damage really starts to stack on you. He's very interesting, but he's not particularly difficult. I don't know that I've ever failed that boss, even on disastrous runs. That the Forge boss is not particularly hard, but the last boss is a nightmare, because every once in a while it will just summon a little bird to go pick up one of the players and fly them over the edge of the combat map. And so if everyone is in the direct center and is as far from the edge as possible, you give your DPS the most time to deal with it. Some people just don't do that. And so you will be flown over the edge and just freaking die because people just did not pay attention to what was going on. Just bad choices all around. Skyreach could be easy if people were on top of it, but they aren't always. I did do a Skyreach yesterday, I want to say, on my healer, and it was super duper easy to heal through, though. There were only a couple places where damage spiked, and because I'm using a Mistweaver monk, it's literally easy mode. You just spin around in place while kicking out with your foot. You literally use spinning crane kick over and over again. And you the amount of damage you deal is translated into a area heal for everybody in your group. And any overheal you deal gets spilled over onto anyone who's low. So if the only person that's taking damage is the tank, you're doing a spinning kick. You're healing everybody. Your overheal is all piling off of everyone back onto the tank. So only during moments of like AoE damage or big spikes do you even have to bother paying attention to mechanics. But it was a very low key. It was like a +2, so it was not very difficult. But I wasn't looking for difficult because I don't actually know how to play healer that well. I leveled my healer from 1 to 90 in 4 hours, and then I really have not played it that much except to do delves. And healing yourself in a delve is not that difficult. So doing healing group content is slowly opening my eyes to the power of the Mistweaver. What's the other good one? Windrunner Spire is all right. It's a well-designed dungeon. It's not easy, though. What Windrunner Spire is the key that I've probably failed to time the most, which is to say people died so often and like just didn't deal enough damage to make it to the end in time. I would say Windrunner Spire is a difficult dungeon. It's not bad. It's good, but it's also not in my favorites. Pit of Sauron, easy and super fun. It's old. You can tell it's old. I think that the interrupts are always a freaking nightmare. Because DPS aren't doing them. And the other thing is I use a very narrow route, and some people, and by some people, Eternal, I'm not looking at you specifically, but some demon hunters, especially Havoc demon hunters, are flying all over the freaking place and will pull additional enemies. And I'm like, my route is extremely precise. It is exactly the number of enemies that I believe I can handle with a normal healer without having to go into emergency mode. And then someone will fly around and like pull a Plague Bearer, and I'll be like, great, emergency mode, begin blowing all mitigation cooldowns, use all defensives, Ring of Peace, bounce everybody out of here, run in circles, begin kiting, which is, when I start kiting, that's a desperate strategy. I'll say this, during the delves and other content we did in guild, I think some people were not pleased when I started kiting, because that's the only time anyone has ever pulled threat on me in the last week is when I'm kiting. Because if I'm beating the shit out of people, my DPS as a tank is so high, it's basically impossible to pull off of me. And I dare Ratosaurus to try to do it now. Because when we're at low level, it was super duper easy. But now that I have my full mix of abilities, it's extremely difficult to pull threat off of a Brewmaster Monk. Even without the radiating token, because I'm not using Shadow Pan, I'm using Master of Harmony, so I don't have the threat radiating totem, but I don't need it because I just cleave the hell out of people and the damage gets multiplied by my threat rating. And it's just, I don't know why I'm bragging. It's all game mechanics. It's not like I really needed a lot of skill to accomplish this, but it is nice. It's nice to be in the zone of just being like impossible to pull off of. Because I've had some people, like the average DPS in a Mythic 10 plus is probably putting out like 80k or something. And I've had some people spike up to like 240k temporarily. And I'm like, even this guy can't pull off of me. Not even this fucking ice mage absolutely blasting using mythic weapons that are at like item level 290 something can't pull off of me. It's good. That's where I want to be. Oh, hey, Rad's in the chat. He says, sounds like you're enjoying WoW Mythics. No, the opposite. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out of the Mythics game. But I like the dungeons. I did like some of the dungeon design. Pit of Sauron is very nice as long as people aren't going freaking crazy to bounce all over the place and are paying attention. The first boss is really make or break in Pit of Sauron, because I've seen people who clearly don't understand how so the boss throws 2 big stones out. He selects 2 random DPS players and throws stones at them. And after his next move will be to target the tank with a tank buster, and you have to break one of the stones in the process or the tank dies. So you have to select one of the 2 stones. And then after that, he starts a channel, which if you're not line of sighting behind the stone, kills everybody in the raid. So the problem is that some people throw their stone in a really fucking stupid position. And that's fine, because if only one player does it, I can just select that stone. As long as I'm on it and I'm aware that someone in my party is just fucking around, I know that I can just walk over. That will be the stone I blow up, and then we'll go to the other stone. The problem is when 2 DPS both do it, and then there's no hiding place. The fight is basically over. And then everyone's yelling at each other, and we just turn in. Rad, you're saying I'm done with WoW. I'm waiting for you to come back. You're the uniter. You're the great king who we're all bowing before. You're the Lord of the Morning, the Prince of the Dawn, the Prince who was promised. I'm mixing 2 fantasy series together now. We need you to lead us, to guide us, to bring us back. I'm begging people to do group content with me. You can see me asking people in guild chat and in Discord, and I can't find anyone who wants to do anything. Although if Teranaki's down to do a dungeon, I'm there, man. I'm freaking there. What's the other dungeon? Well, let me keep going through the dungeon roll. Mysar Caverns, absolute nightmare. The absolute just Mysar Caverns, horrible. Algathar Academy, actually the worst. Algathar Academy is like so multiple bosses in Algathar Academy have mechanics where if you make a mistake, if you step in a puddle, if you step in the fire, if you run into a floating ball, the boss gets a stacking buff. And so the worse everyone is at the boss, the harder the boss becomes, and because it's cumulative, things get out of hand very quickly, especially the final boss, Headmaster Dragoza. Absolute fucking nightmare. But I want to say he's an arcane familiar called Vexatious or something. He's fucking nightmare. The first boss, everyone is supposed to stack together and then rotate to the left, and then some fucking morons will rotate to the right for no apparent reason, and when questioned they'll say they've always done it that way, but everyone else has rotated to the left like a fucking NASCAR driver. Everyone's going in the same direction except one person, and then that one person is causing everybody problems because now there's just like stuff on the ground everywhere. Algathar Academy, very bad. What else is on rotation? What am I missing here? Nexus Point Zenus. This is not the easiest dungeon, and especially the first pull and the first wing. The first pull is probably the hardest pull in the entire dungeon, and the left wing of the dungeon, which I've always gone to that one first, is the toughest wing of the dungeon. It has gotten easier as a tank because the thing that was killing me most early on is DPS floating around, especially Havoc Demon Hunters, but also Hunters. Anybody that's like super mobile will pull additional ads. And it's strange because it actually is quite roomy compared to most dungeons. So I discovered that if I just pulled all the enemies back further away from the next ad pack, it saves me a ton of heartache. It's nearly impossible for anyone who isn't brain dead to cause a wipe. I would say Nexus Point Zenus, it's not my favorite in terms of fun because that's Magister's Terrace, the first dungeon I listed. But Nexus Point Zenus is probably the perfect balance. It's not too easy and it's not too difficult. I really like running Nexus Point Zenus. The bosses all have a mechanic that requires DPS to be on the ball, and they also have mechanics. All of them have mechanics where the tanks have to be on the ball, so everyone kind of can't be brain dead, but they're also not like super hard. And the last boss is Lothraxian, and he has a super cool mechanic where he spawns. He's like Loki from Marvel. He spawns tons of copies of himself, but he doesn't have horns, but all of his copies have horns. and at some point he will disappear and inhabit one of his copies. If you have to stop him from channeling, or he blows up and kills everyone. But if you interrupt one of the copies that has horns, it also blows up. It doesn't kill everybody, but it does punish you for choosing the wrong person. So there's this thing where like you just end up with a room full of copies, and you have to find the hornless one, the bald Lothraxian. And once you interrupt him, he exits that intermission phase and goes back into starting the DPS again. And then you'll normally get like 2 or 3 intermission phases like that. Very interesting, super interesting. Nexus Point Zenith. I've had a number of very close finishes on that. Nothing will ever beat the Magister's Terrace I ended with 3 seconds left, though. That one was we had to burn 25% of the last boss's health in 20 seconds. And we did it in 17 seconds. Yeah, it was very close. I think I was on Discord with Taranaki when it happened, and my blood pressure was rising. All right, I've done a lot of yakking. Rad says he needs me to teach him Mythic, which is perfectly fine. That is the exact reason I wanted to get a Resilient Keystone, aka once you hit plus 12 on all keys, your key can never go below 12, which means now I don't have to worry about like going back and doing Mythic dungeons with lower level people and then like fucking up and then fumbling, and then my key will go down. My key can never go down now. It can only go up. Numbers only go up, ladies and gentlemen. Rad wants to get us into PvP battlegrounds. Okay. I don't know that tanks do that well there. Does like Provoke do something in PvP? Does anyone know?
Don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, I do as much DPS as like a bad DPSer. But other than that, I just have tons and tons of fucking health. So I guess I could get people to beat the shit out of me, I suppose. I'd probably PvP on my healer, since it turns DPS into area healing, and that's super duper easy. I mean, I think that sounds like exactly what you want, doing lots of damage, and also sprinkling heals on everybody at the same time. Well, I've done a lot of yakking about World of Warcraft. Eternal is a World of Warcraft player. Any commentary?
I've been playing World of Warcraft this entire time. I'm still
Wow.
enjoying it. I'm
Great.
idly doing the dailies and weeklies and collecting more decor mounts and cosmetics, because that is my gameplay style.
Great.
Be glad to get more people in. If we can do some Mythic dungeons or raiding, I'd be glad. I haven't been doing them myself just because I do not particularly enjoy doing pugs. So yeah, if we get a group, I'd be glad to do it.
I understand. I didn't want to do pugs, and it was a nightmare. Sometimes. A lot of the pugs, even if we didn't complete it, people would still be very polite and normal about it, and then some people would just be absolutely fucking horrible. Lawson, any commentary?
No, not for World of Warcraft, no.
Great. I bought a watermelon a few days back. Today I sliced that sucker in half, flipped one of the faces down on the counter on a I want to say baking sheet. That's not what I mean. A cutting board, and then slice that thing into, I want to say cube-like strips, if you know what I'm talking about. Just basically dicing, but without the center cuts. And then just had like long watermelon slices today, which is pretty nice. I got the watermelon for like $2, which I was like, this is a great deal for a freaking watermelon. You know, I don't know, guys. Just, it was at Produce Junction. I don't know. That's a Delaware thing. I don't know if they have them other places, but you buy the food directly from farmers, essentially, so the prices are way lower. And, you know, I could go to like Aldi or Lidl and get like a melon thing, a melon salad of some kind for like, I mean, the prices have gone up. I would have said 3 or 4 years I could get one for $4, but now it's like $8. Or I could get 6 times as much watermelon for a quarter of the price. And those are the kind of things you have to do to survive in this economy. In this economy, with gas approaching $5 in Delaware, like a freaking nightmare. Even though we're using that shitty corn gas now. I don't know. Just oh wow, apparently there's a new genre on Steam called Bullet Heaven. That's okay.
Yeah, I think I know those. I think let's see, like,
It's Vampire Survivors.
yeah,
I don't have any interest in that. I know that like there's a Hall Live version and then there's like a Castlevania version, and it's getting really popular now, and people are just like indie making, asset capturing with their own sprites, and banging out their own copies and clones. And for people that enjoy that, I think that's great. I think that they should enjoy whatever they want to do, but it's not for me. So but let's mark my words, this time next year it's going to be Final Fantasy 14 time. It'll be time. World of Warcraft will be long past, and it'll be time to do a new MMO. And I'll have to finally finish whatever shitty expansion I was in the underwater turtle princess area that I was hating,
yeah.
and get to Shadowbringers.
I don't think you'll have as easy of a time getting people into Final Fantasy 14 because you have to do.
Yeah, you have to follow the entire
150
storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do
I know.
150 hours plus just to get to the game.
Yeah. You have to play the entire 2.0 storyline. You get the several expansions, Heavensward, Dragon whatever, Stormbreakers, whatever. It doesn't matter what the names are. You get everything up to Shadowbringers for free. You only have to like pay for a subscription, I guess, to the game. You don't even have to buy a copy of the game anymore, I think. You just pay for the subscription. You don't have to buy any of the expansions. You don't have to buy the game until you hit that point. And it took a long time to get through 2.0, but I actually enjoyed it. It had a lot of voice acting, a bunch of Critical Role voice actors. I mean, Thancred is just straight. I believe Thancred is the one who is Taliesin Jaffe. But here's the thing. I liked Final Fantasy 11 storylines, so it was no surprise that I'd like Final Fantasy 14. And the game has aged, I think, well. The older storylines do show their age, but after you get past them, each expansion releases newer, better, trendier storylines. You've got the who runs the Gold Saucer guy, who's also a private Sherlock Holmes detective and a moron at the same time. The Manderley Man. Yes, the Manderley Man. Manderville Man? That whole storyline is always like, this was great, but also it was terrible at the same time. I would say I'm a Manderville man. Yes, if you want to get into the latest content in Final Fantasy 14, it is going to take a long time. You can do it with other people. Nothing stops you from that. So the way 14 works is you complete main story content, but you can go back and do it with other people. Like if they need help, you can go back and do it with them. But you have one character, and all the crafting they are actual classes, and then all positions are also classes, and you equip the class to yourself as like a piece of equipment. And so you can have a character that is high or low level in every position. They're very generous with the amount of equipment spots and like bank spots that you have. You basically literally can do everything on just one character, although plenty of people make multiple characters You are not required to in any way, shape, or form. That's what I liked about 11, and that's what I liked about 14. Although what annoyed the hell out of me about 11 was that when you died, you lost XP, which was fine because I mained a white mage, and so if you had a white mage revive you, you regained almost all your XP when you came back to life. But then you would enter into this situation where people who were also leveling near you. So leveling in 11 was always a group affair. You always formed a full group, and then you went to some place and you pulled trash over and over again. That's just how MMORPGs were in the early 2010s and like 20 or very early 2010s. Other groups nearby would know that I was a white mage, and they'd start whispering me and trying to lure me with money to come revive all of them when they died. So I just got to the point where I was like, block all private communication while leveling, so people would stop ignoring me. And there was like this weird thing when you hit a certain level that red mages would gain a similar ability to you. So white mages would eventually gain an ability called Raise 2, which completely negated the XP loss. But red mages would gain the ability to refresh people's mana before white mages got that. And they would also gain white mages' Raise ability as well. And so there's like this leveling period, I want to say it's in the 40s, where people were like, we don't want a white mage. They're inefficient. We just need red mages. And I'm like, if you'll just help me level to the point that I get raised to, I'll be better than a red mage. People were so min-maxed on 11 at that time. It was before Chains of Promathia, which, by the way, probably one of the most difficult expansions in MMO history. I've talked about Absolute Virtue on this show before, and it's been a nightmare. People literally died in real life fighting him because they fought him for so long. No one understood his special mechanic. Tice is saying Manderville Man is peak perfection. This is a guy who knows what he's talking about. You know, if I had to say one thing about Tice, I would say he's a guy who knows what he's talking about. He's a Manderville Man as well, I expect. I didn't think I was going to make it the full distance, and I'm not sure I will, because I'm probably going to go to sleep immediately as soon as we're done here. But Eternal, Lawson, if you guys have anything you want to talk about for the last 12 and a half minutes, let's do it. What do you got? What do you got for me? Abs, what do you got for me?
Not too much. Lancer game imploded, but now it's reconstructing into a Star Wars Edge of the Empire game. So
Yeah, we love Star Wars Edge of the Empire. Who's game mastering that?
Likelihoods of conflict.
It should be Pondo.
Wow, Pondo the man. Very well.
I'm Lawson. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I'm running Blood Bowl on the Discord. So if you want to hop in and play some Blood Bowl, you can find it in the Warhammer channel. There's a thread for it. Other than that, not much else going on.
Incredible. Well, with what we've got here, let's talk about outros. Anyone have outros to say before we wrap up a little early?
I'm Lawson. I'm here.
Incredible.
Colonel, I'm gone.
Wow.
Sorry, I don't have it in me to go on a 13-minute talking spree so I can fill the role of Big Spoon getting cut off by the end of the show.
I haven't done that in a while. You know, it's an old meme and it doesn't check out anymore.
I don't think Spoon's been here for a couple weeks either.
Very well. Tice is saying, I'm Tice eating a milk chocolate hazelnut bar. There's
Sounds
my
good.
there's my closing rant is big chocolate corporations tricking people into liking hazelnut and all this other shit, coconut and whatever, and stuffing the chocolate full of it to lower the chocolate purity and try to sweeten it up in any other way than just making good chocolate. I feel like I've gone on a huge number of we're all getting screwed over at all times rants lately, but the way that chocolate has slowly become absolute dog shit in the last few years, like it's been getting worse for a long time because chocolate prices have been going up, right? And that's fine. I understand South American cacao prices going up. It's better to just make coffee, right? The same land making coffee will make them more money. But you know, chocolate futures became a thing people started investing in pretty heavily in the mid 2010s, I think. And now they're like extremely regulated. It's just really tough for new people to break into the market. And so we're just getting a bunch of really fucking shitty chocolate. What's that chocolate they're trying to get every influencer to do to make people buy it? Dubai chocolate? Is that what it's called? Where it's literally like fucking 50% hazelnut, just so that it has a very similar texture, but it's almost no chocolate in it, and it just tastes like shit. They just throw a little bit of sugar in there to keep your fucking brain sensors working correctly. Yeah, people are saying Dubai chocolate.
I've not had it, but yeah, I've seen it a billion times.
You're good. You can skip past it. It's not real chocolate. Look, I'm an Aldi Lidl fan. I'm a Costco fan. There's no hiding that. I've none of these places sponsor or support me in any way. I need to make it very clear about that when I say if I'm gonna get chocolate, it's gonna be one of those Aldi chocolate bars that are like European made German chocolate, and they are just 100% fucking chocolate. And you know what? Let's be clear. I'm not talking that dark chocolate stuff. You like dark chocolate, that's fine. I know plenty of people that like dark chocolate. It's not for me. It's fine. I'll consume it if it's placed in front of me. When I'm seeking out chocolate, I want that fucking milk chocolate, brother. I don't want dark chocolate. I want my chocolate to taste sugary. I want it to taste like the way Hershey's tasted like when I was a kid, not the way Hershey's tastes like now. Also, as long as I'm banging on Hershey's in Pennsylvania, let me add as well, if your chocolate melts in your hand, it's shitty, low quality chocolate. If your chocolate bar is melty in your hand, there's a whole fucking reason that was Hershey's slogan for the longest ass time. Melts in your mouth, not in the hand, because your hand's body temperature should not be warm enough to melt a bar of good chocolate. Now it's just fucking emulsifier and hazelnut, and it'll melt real easily. That's how you know. Well, that's one of the ways you know. The other way you know is if someone's a vampire and they need permission to enter your door. Come inside. All right. I'll skip over talking about Maxwell's demon and Laplace's demon. Actually, Maxwell's demon was debunked, but determinism hasn't been debunked yet. And in fact, in a deterministic universe, maybe it never will be. Something to think about. Oh, is that the end screen?